Hey everyone, welcome back to Southern Gals True Crime, or if this is your first time here, thank you so much for dropping in. I share missing persons, cold cases, and true crime news. Please give this video a like, leave a comment, share it to all your social media platforms to help bring awareness to this case. On February 15th, 2000, the day after Asha Degree vanished into thin air, the headline of the Star screams, 9-year-old girl missing, hours of search reveal little. A smiling Asha is displayed on the front page, along with a photo of her shattered mother being comforted by a family member. Asha's mother, Asha Degree, dressed in a Charlotte Hornets jacket and mittens, addressed the crowd with tears in her eyes, pleading for her baby back. The article details how nearly 100 law enforcement and volunteers combed fields and forests near the child's home on Oakcrest Drive off of NC 18 to no avail. The only leads police gleaned that day were two accounts of drivers seeing her on NC 18 around 4 a.m. One was a Sundrop truck driver, the other an unidentified motorist. Both called after seeing Asha featured as a missing child on TV and recognizing her as the little girl they saw walking south towards Shelby, just north of the intersection of NC 180. The description the drivers gave matched what Asha was wearing that day, and both said that she did have on a backpack. Despite the cold weather, Asha had slipped out of the house early that morning without a coat, hat, or mittens. Then Sheriff Dan Crawford was quoted as saying, "From all accounts, she's a happy girl who has no problems at home or at school." He labeled the case bizarre and said there was no reason to believe there was any foul play, but they were checking every angle and going door to door. He says, "We've searched a huge amount of area, but we have not found her." He said there were no signs of an abduction from the house and no forced entry. He goes on to say, "What concerns me is that she has been gone all day without contacting anyone. There's some reason she went out of that house." Her father, mother, and brother were interviewed that night by police. They said, quote, "We have no idea why she would have gone out or where she would want to go. She wasn't disciplined Sunday, and my son said that nothing was bothering her at school or at home. She just don't know why. We just don't know why, but we are praying she comes home to us safely." A helicopter scanned the area by air, and dogs searched the ground, but rain and fog complicated the search, and the dogs who tracked her scent up to the road lost it once they hit the asphalt. Asha's father, Harold Degree, said that she was on the couch until about midnight and said that she was wearing jeans and a purple and white Sun Degrees Hot in Atlanta t-shirt. Harold told her to go to bed around midnight, according to the story. He checked on the children at 12:30 when the power came back on and said both were sleeping. Earlier that night, as detailed in a news story, a car had struck a power pole, killing the female driver and plunging the upper end of the county into darkness for several hours. Her brother, O'Brien, told law enforcement that he saw Asha get up around 2:30 a.m. in her nightgown to go to the bathroom, but then she went back to bed. Later, he said he heard the bed squeak, but he didn't think anything of it. He says, "I thought she was tossing around in her sleep. She would have told me if she went somewhere." The only items missing were a pair of white jeans, her book bag, a Tweety pocketbook, and sneakers. Then Emergency Management Director Bo Lovelace was equally baffled. He said there is just no rhyme or reason, and he expressed a sense of futility. He goes on to say, "The weather, with it being rainy, has not been good for dogs to pick up a scent. It's like looking for a needle in a haystack, but we don't even know how big the haystack is and where it starts or ends." A transcript of the 911 call was also included in original reporting. The call, according to the news story, lasted 2 minutes and 40 seconds and was made at 6:39 a.m. that Monday morning by Harold. He tells the dispatcher, "Yes, I'd like to report a missing child." The dispatcher responds, "From where?" And he says, "From my house." When the dispatcher asks the address, Harold stumbles over the numbers, giving the wrong one at first, as the sound of crying fills the background. He then tells the dispatcher the last time he saw her, she was in her bed, and when they got up that morning, she was gone. He says, quote, "And her book bag is missing and her pocketbook." He tells her Asha and her brother share a room, but O'Brien did not hear her get up. He says he is not sure if she was in her clothes or her nightgown. The case seemed to languish for many years with new information, at least publicly revealed, was scarce. A little over a year after she vanished, her backpack and other items were found double-bagged in plastic trash bags on the side of NC 18 near Morgantown by a construction crew. DNA on those items, as detailed in search warrant affidavits, was recently matched to Annalie Dedmon Ramirez, who is Roy Dedmon's daughter, and a man named Russell Bradley Underhill, and Mr. Underhill passed away in 2004. This year's developments are the first big break in years. It is a case that has haunted many, especially the investigators who poured hours and their hearts and souls into finding Asha. 24 years later, and Bobby Steen still remembers the day that he got the call. He says, he's a former captain at the Cleveland County Sheriff's Office. He said he worked the case off and on for several years, beginning the day Asha went missing, and then again when he took over the case sometime around 2006 to 2010. He says, "The morning that she went missing, I received a call from the detective on call about this case. I was in Charleston, South Carolina, in training on how to investigate a missing or exploited child. How ironic was that?" He went on to speak about the difficulty of the investigation. The most difficult part of this case was that it was handed over to so many different investigators from the Sheriff's Office, SBI investigators, and FBI investigators. My opinion was that it was very hard to follow up with different people from different agencies coming and going. Despite the challenges, Steen said initially he had, quote, "very strong leads coming in, including a name that has been the recent focal point of search warrants." He says, quote, "Roy Dedmon's name came up in my investigation, but with things going on right now with his family, I will not feel comfortable making any statement on my involvement. Like everyone else, he is also plagued by one question." He says, quote, "The one thing that still haunts me to this day, and I have never been able to shake it, is here is a little girl that is terrified of the dark and thunderstorms, yet she leaves her house at nighttime and during a storm." Steen said learning about the recent breaks in the case, a case which he labored over for years, feels wonderful. He says, "I always knew in my heart that it would be solved eventually. I had to believe that it would be. My thoughts and prayers are with the family that when this is all over, that they will have closure. I also pray for all the many law enforcement officers that work this case, that we can all be satisfied with everything that we put into it, and the community that has been affected by this tragedy, that everyone can be proud of the endless efforts that law enforcement has put into this case to help bring it to a close." Thanks for watching, guys. Once again, give this video a like, leave a comment, share it anywhere and everywhere you can. So hopefully some new tips or information will come in Asha's case, and it will be solved, and her family can have closure. Thanks again for watching, and I will see you in the next one.